Then we have a presenter. She's from the Utah Foster Care. And this is basically it's going to be an update in which she's going to give us because she's visited our site before and attended one of our meetings in the past. But with time changes, plus there's new personnel, give a little bit of update on some of the foster care issues, and I think maybe the Indian Child Welfare Act too. But we'll just kind of leave that up to her. And we'll have some updates in the Urban Indian Center, and then we'll adjourn until January the 16th of next year. So before we get started, I asked Charlene John from the Washington School District to give us our culture of reverence this morning. So I'll just give her the floor and we'll start from there.
Hey,
Oh,
Benne. Sé Charlene John da sinne is trap hansle a sé ba sé tí kin le chini da sé chédó nach ché den nationale. Hi, my name is Charlene John. I'm a um okay Zuni Edgewater, born for Salt People Clan. My maternal grandparents are the Red House people, and my paternal is Mexican People Clan. So that's who I am. So anyway, my cultural relevance is going to just be talking a little bit about winter storytelling. Last week we had our winter storytelling for our family night, and when we did that, I thought about my dad. About the creation story, how it happened from the bottom all the way up to this world, and then we move into the hero twins, their journey, and then we end with the coyote stories. And anyway, my siblings and I, we listen to him every evening. And at that time, I thought that was just stories that he talks about. But as I got older, I learned that these were teaching moments. Is that has been told to me. Learn from it. So last week when Harold asked me to write a cultural reference, I thought about it and I'm thinking, did you make this? So I looked for a quote and I found Benjamin Franklin's quote and says, "Tell me and I'll forget. Teach me, I may remember. Involve me." And so anyway, this quote, I thought about it and I broken it down.
mhm.
Anyway, it says, "Teach me and I forget." And that portion reminds me of when I was a little girl, younger, when I was a little girl. And, when at that age, this is probably about 8 to 12-year-old, I always listened to the story, but I don't remember it. I just remember it because I kind of, remember that my dad doing it. And it's because I think it's because I had a short attention span at that time, and I'm often tired because it's the end of the day. You bring the sheep back, and you're tired, So anyway, that's what we did. And then the second part, teach me that I may remember. That one happened a little bit later, about my teenage years. And these are the stories that my dad teach every year over and over. And the stories that he told us, helped me develop. I think it helped me develop my imagination, and also, with that happening, I remembered the story more, and also the teachings of it I learned. And then involve me that I may learn. That part is, involving everybody, My dad used to say, "Oh, come on, sit over here, let's listen." And even if you're tired, you sit there and just listen to him. Sometimes I fall asleep, but most of the time, we listen. Yeah, so wait 1 second, because I want to make sure my mic. Anyway, as I got older, now I repeat that same story to my children and my grandchildren, and I try to get them involved because I want them to preserve those stories so that they can learn from it and pass it on through generations. So anyway, I just want to end with saying that I hope each one of you guys can teach your cultural story so you can pass it on to the next generation. So that's my cultural part. Okay.
What you just mentioned is, for us, it's really, really important because that's part of the growing up traditions, the stories in which the seasons come. So, what you just shared with us is something that's has been, it's been used long, long ago, and it's continuing. So thank you, Charlene, for that. Okay, let's move on. We have Dusty, and I see that he's here today. I appreciate
Right.
him coming to visit us and give us some knowledge in terms of the professional development. So what I'm going to do is just give the time to him, give the floor, and then we'll go from there. Hey, appreciate that, Dusty.
Hey, no problem. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
All right.
We
Oh,
also see
well.
your screen too.
Oh, good, good. So, last week, Chuck Foster showed me a picture of a headdress one of the school districts wanted to share with their native students, and it was really surprising. Um, it was a native headdress, and it was something you would get maybe from a toy store or something. And they asked if they could share those with their native students, and I think they resolved that in the right way on that they shouldn't. But it brought up a bunch of topics in my head about what I would hope people knew, and there's a lot of books out there that say, there's like everything you wish you could ask a Native American or stuff like that, even those idiot guides books. I don't like the titles of those, but there's those books that you know how to understand Native America better, and and I think there's plenty of books out there for adults or for non-Indians to read to try to understand Native issues and history a little better. Um, and so, but there wasn't really a whole lot out there for Native students. I often wonder, when my kids graduate, do they know everything they should know? Do they have enough information before they step out into the world to go to college or into the workforce or into the military even? And I have to ask myself, did I teach them enough? And so in that thought process, I was like, what do I wish that Native students had a better understanding of by the time they graduated high school? And so I dug around and looked at a few articles and some journal writings that people had, and that that kind of got close to that topic. And so I'm going to share with you a few, and these aren't in depth at all. But hopefully, I can give you enough information that if it interests you, as Title VI coordinators or just educators working with Native students, if it interests you, maybe you could learn a little more about it, or have your students learn a little more about it, and throughout the year. And so I thought I'd share a couple of these topics with you that I liked. So let me move that thing. Let me see. Can I make that smaller? Yes, no. It says, there were between 300 and 500 languages spoken across the United States continent. uh, you know, and many of these languages they've disappeared, because of assimilation processes by government, by some tribes that just don't exist anymore through wars or just maybe mixed in with other surrounding tribes, and but this was a policy of the U.S. government. And in 1868, Even President Grant, he even said, he says, in the difference of language today lies two-thirds of our trouble. Their barbarous dialect should be blotted out and the English language substituted, right? And he was looking at that relationship between the natives and non-natives in the United States, and they really were pushing assimilation, that they should be like us. They should speak like us. They should believe like us. And the language was one of the biggest things that kept cultures alive. I think even um, with native people practicing their culture, so much of their ceremonies are tied up with the language. And if you're not a practitioner of those ceremonies or those events, it's probably hard to maintain your language and to keep it going. And it's been something that's been trying to be removed from us for a lot of years. And because what makes us unique, is one of those things that makes us unique is our languages as native people, as tribal governments. And so it's important to hold on to those things. And around the 1800s, a lot of native people were displaced from their homes, their communities, and they were moved on to reservations. And even native children were taken to boarding schools for a long time, and they weren't allowed to speak their language. And and so if I think it's this, what you see right here is the Cherokee alphabet. A lot of tribes had tried to make that work, and to make an alphabet that was their own, and that their people could use and understand, and and help preserve their identity even more. There have been a lot of people in the United States, a lot of Native people that pushed hard to save their tribal languages, and so much so that in 1990 Congress passed a Native American Language Act, which provides support for Native American language preservation and revitalization. And there was a study that pointed out that by the time 2050 comes, there'll probably only be two native languages that can be spoken fluently, and they identified Navajo and Ojibwe as those two languages that have, and that's only because they have the most speakers right now, and they have the higher populations of native people. And so, but all of us, all tribes should put in the work to help preserve that language and help preserve their ceremonies and things. Uh, Here's another topic. So I'll be jumping from topic to topic. I'm just hoping these will help you, or inspire you to get some lessons or little programs or things that you can share with your students. So this next one is, just this. There are a lot of reservations around, but the largest reservation in the United States is the Navajo Nation. Covers almost 25,000 square miles. It's about the size of West Virginia, twice the size of Maryland, and it's in three states, in Utah, Arizona, New Mexico. And just by comparison, on the right, I'm sorry this is so blurry, but on the right you can see three states on the east: Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts. The Navajo Nation is bigger than all three of those put together. um, and they're also in 2021, after the census was taken, it was the first year that Navajo Nation passed the Cherokee Nation for the largest population of a native tribe, and with nearly 400,000 registered or enrolled members. And as because of that, the chances of them more people speaking Navajo go up, because there's just so many more people doing it. Uh, just ask you, if your microphone's on, if you could please put it on mute, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. So today there are 575 federally recognized tribes in the United States, and they're represented as governments. Okay. And there are 229 of those 575 are found in Alaska. California has 109 tribes, and also the highest number, or the highest population of individual Indians within a state. And something why this is important is because, unlike other minority groups in the U.S., federally recognized tribes have a government to government relationship with the United States, just like any other sovereign nation. But there are a lot of tribes that don't have federal recognition, and because of that, they're not going to be eligible for certain government programs or support. And as of 2020, 67 tribes have received, or 66 tribes have received state recognition in 13 states. But a tribe that is just state recognized isn't always, they're not always entitled, or they don't always have the same um, rights and privileges or access to federal benefits. But it does acknowledge that their historical and and their continued existence today. So I was going to ask you a quiz question, but I just put it right on my slide. But just this week, the Lumbee tribe in North Carolina, uh, through the congressional process, they gained their federal recognition. So they become the 575th federally recognized tribe this week. You know, and they for those members of the Lumbee tribe that were pushing for federal recognition, this has been almost 70 years in the making. 70 years of lobbying, of talking with their congressional leaders and forming relationships in Washington to make sure this could happen for them, and so we wish them the best. But yeah, just this week, the Lumbees finally got their federal recognition. So that's pretty cool to see. A lot of people don't realize that the first newspaper in a Native American language was published in 1828. Uh, Prior to colonization, Native American languages were just spoken languages. They were oral languages, and after the arrival of Europeans, especially those on the East Coast, when the English arrived on that side, several of those tribes began to adopt writing systems. I think the ones that we know of more are the five civilized tribes, and because they were contact tribes and they were there when the English started arriving. They saw how these English settlements were being run, and for a lot of them, they started to um, they started to copy how they were moving forward. They created schools, they created alphabets, they created hospitals, they created government functions that were similar to the colonists that were coming in, and because they wanted to get along and help each other. And what's cool about this is that the Cherokee people had a man named Sequoia, and he spent 12 years developing a writing system that his people could learn quickly. Like they could read it and write it quickly. And it actually had an 86 character alphabet by 1821. They call these syllabaries. And the Japanese hiragana is probably the most famous one. But the Cherokee is the only one that was invented by a native person for native people. Okay, like they have their own symbols. They have, they're not borrowing letters from anybody. They create their own symbols and assign sounds to them, and it works so well that within 3 to 5 years, most of the Cherokee population could read and write their own language, and they set up a printing press and put it all out there. The first newspaper that was published by the Cherokee people was called the Cherokee Phoenix, and it was published in the Cherokee capital of New Echota, Georgia, and it was their first bilingual newspaper. It was printed in both English and the Cherokee language, so I thought that was pretty cool. Um, something that not a lot of people understand, especially here in Utah, is that not all Native American tribes have reservation lands. There are around 326 land areas in the United States compared to the 575 federally recognized tribes. Um, but many don't have land, and there's two in the state of Utah that don't have land right now. The San Juan Southern Paiute and the Northwestern Band of the Shoshone Nation. And that's surprising to a lot of people. The Northwestern Band was supposed to get a reservation um, as part of the 1868 Fort Bridger Treaty. Fort Washakie, Fort Hall, they were also part of that treaty, and they got their lands. But the Northwestern Band of Shoshone, they're still waiting on theirs. If you're wondering who they are, they're currently headquartered in Ogden, but they are the tribe that had suffered the Bear River Massacre um, uh, and in 1863, and I think it was January 29th. If you don't know much about that, usually on a weekend, they'll go out, and when it's close to the Bear River Massacre date, the entire tribe will go there, and they'll read statements, and they'll remind themselves what happened, and and encourage each other to keep moving forward. So next month's professional development, I plan on giving it on the Bear River Massacre just before the tribe has their their gathering on that, and just in case anyone would want to learn more or want to attend that, I think that'd be important. The the San Juan Southern Paiute, they're located in southern Utah, and their lands are pretty close to the Navajo Nation. And as the Navajo Nation grew and grew, they kind of just swallowed up the traditional lands of the San Juan Southern Paiute. And so they've been trying to get land set aside for themselves and their tribe for many years. Right now, there's a Colorado River water settlement for northern Arizona, and the the Navajo Nation has, as part of that settlement, if that water settlement gets passed, the Navajo Nation has ceded a few thousand acres to the San Juan Southern Paiute. So that could be something that could happen soon, and that would be a great thing for the San Juan Southern Paiute to have reservation land that they can use for their people, and for the care of and preservation of their people and culture. So we're excited for them about that. And so we're hoping that water settlement gets passed soon. This is one that caught me off guard when I first really started getting into things. Uh, was that Native Americans cultivated many of the world's most important crops that we use around the world today. It's pretty cool. And now when we talk about Native Americans, a lot of time archaeologists and anthropologists will talk from Canada or Alaska all the way down to the tip of South America. So keep that in mind. So it's all the Americas. And many of these native tribes, they practice agriculture. I know sometimes you'll read things like in the Declaration of Independence or certain court cases that describe native people as just hunter-gatherers, right? They just on the move all the time with no real home, or and didn't really settle down. We know that's not true. There are a lot of tribes that practiced agriculture, and they domesticated crops for their own use. In 2016, it was estimated that as much as 60% of the global food supply was based on crops that originated in North America. Right? Corn was created by indigenous farmers in southern Mexico and Guatemala almost 10,000 years ago. And by the time European colonists arrived in North America, Native Americans had been growing it for thousands of years. Native Americans also cultivated beans, squash, potatoes, tomatoes. Can you believe that? I always assumed that the tomatoes were grown in Italy, but Italy didn't get the tomato until the 1500s when the Spanish found it in Mexico, because the Mayans and the Aztecs, they were growing it there, and they called it tomato, Tomatl, tomato. And so even carries the indigenous word. for it. What I thought was cool is Nebo Title Six. They went out and grew a native garden, and they tried to emulate and practice this, and were very successful in regrowing. I think the corn, beans, and squash, what we call the three sisters, and sharing that knowledge with their students there. And I think that's something a lot of Title Six programs could do if you had the space for it or a greenhouse for it. I thought it was a wonderful activity that really benefited the kids in Nebo Title Six. So that's just another idea to put out there. I spoke on this last a few months ago, I think, just the Haudenosaunee Confederacy or the Iroquois Confederacy, and it's for historians as things go, it's they're looked at as one of the oldest living democracies in the world. It was formed. I put a little map on the bottom there. This wampum belt design also represents the five tribes, the five original tribes that were involved in that confederacy. And this map on the bottom here just shows you where they're located. But they're made up of the Mohawk, the Oneida, the Onondaga, the Cayuga, and the Seneca. And some anthropologists believe that it was founded in the year 1142. The Confederacy itself, if you ask the tribes involved, they said it's been in existence forever, for what the word they'll say is time immemorial. And regardless, it's considered one of the oldest participatory democracies on earth. And the nations are united by what they call the Great Law of Peace, which serves as their political constitution. A little bit later, in the 18th century, the Tuscarora was added to this confederacy as the sixth nation. You know, a lot of tribes are democratic, and the Iroquois Confederacy brought people together from a large geographical area, and that's what really makes them unique. Uh, the sovereign, what there's three major contributions of this confederacy, and Professor Donald Grind, he's from a University of Buffalo. He said first that the sovereignty resides in the people was a belief. Second, that the separation of powers, the distinct branches of government, are essential for an efficient government. And third, he said the Constitution itself, right? It's where articles can be read, they can be cited, um, and it's huge, right? They this confederacy had a system of government that allowed people to reference past actions, past decisions, and base new decisions on that, to have policies, even if at first starting orally, they had policies that could be cited by others, and points could be made, and arguments could be made, citing past action and current policies that the tribes could agree on to come to solutions and resolutions of issues that confronted them. And I did one that was pretty long last time, so I won't go too far into this, but this is a great topic to use, that you can share maybe with your civics teachers in your schools or government teachers, that they could share with their students, and something that your kids can be proud of. Something that many of my students don't realize at Utah Valley University is that Native people weren't granted citizenship in the United States until 1924. And that was passed by Calvin Coolidge on June 2nd, right? Uh, there were some Native people that were already considered U.S. citizens because during the allotment period, uh, the Allotment Act, when the Dawes Rolls were first produced, the General Allotment Act of 1887, sometimes called the 1887 Dawes Act, that granted citizenship to Native people who would accept an allotment and also work that land. The idea behind allotments was we'll give you 160 acres if you're a family, or 80 acres if you're a single adult male, and you would be start practicing the agricultural lifestyle. And if you could do that for 25 years, a lot of them could gain citizenship that way. And I don't know if there's any writings on um, Native people that were able to satisfy those requirements to become a U.S. citizen then, but I'm sure there were. There were many. But until 1924, it wasn't an official U.S. policy. It says, but even though they were given full citizenship, a lot of Native Americans were denied the vote, or they were denied the ability to practice all the rights that come with citizenship, right? If you look at this, 1924, tribes became citizens, or Indian people became citizens. But even we were waiting until 1978 for tribes to be able to fully practice their religions with the American Indian Religious Freedom Act. So, citizenship in 1924, but really denied First Amendment rights all the way until 1978. So that could be a topic to discuss with your students and really delve into. I think that'd be a great learning experience for them. Um, um, a lot of tribes were forcibly displaced from their homelands. And I remember I was talking to somebody. I was waiting to get on an airplane, and they were talking to me about, he thought it was suspicious that tribes would claim ancestral land where major cities and communities currently exist today. And I was like, it was suspicious, huh? And he was like, yeah, I think they're just trying to claim all the good land that we're using today. And I was like, well, how do you think these cities started? How do you think these communities started, and why were they started here? And we talked to him about access to water, access to natural resources, and that prior to westward expansion, or even prior to European colonialization in North America, tribes knew where the good places to live were. The Valley, Utah County, this was the home of the Timpanogos Band of Utes. This is, you know, and this is a winter gathering for the Ute people. They come off the mountain, they come down here into Utah County, and there was fresh water, there was access to a river, the game was coming down from the mountain because it wasn't as cold, and so they used to live down here. So it's no surprise that like if we look at Utah, that tribes would count the Utah County Valley as a traditional homeland, and it wasn't because the you know the it didn't it got good it wasn't because it got good because of European colonization. It was an already good place to live. Everyone knew that, and tribes were forced out of these areas. Cedar City, the same way. There was tribes living in that area. It became a non-Indian city, where and we can. But what's awesome is that the Cedar or the Paiute Indian tribe is headquartered right there in that city, as a reminder that tribes were here prior to non-Indian settlement. Um, but you know, there was I have a couple pictures here on the right, with the lady crying up front. That's a painting of a depiction of the Trail of Tears, which involved the Choctaw, Cherokee, Creek, Seminole, and Chickasaw people when they were forced to move from when they were forced to move from their lands in the southeast into the Oklahoma territories. On the left, that's a painting of depicting the long walk of the Navajo people when they were forced to leave their homelands and go to a place called Bosque Redondo in Fort Sumner. And they were there from 1864 to 1868 before they were allowed to come back to their homeland, and there's a lot of stories about that. There's a famous walking song called Shin Ashaga, and it talks about how they're walking, and when they how they rejoiced when they saw Mount Taylor on their heads. They're headed back home because they knew they were going back in between and or within the sacred mountains where they'd be protected. And so a lot of people don't realize that tribes haven't always been able to return home. We see the tribes from the Trail of Tears. There are some people that got off that trail and hid out in the mountains and didn't have to make it all the way to Oklahoma. But for a lot of these tribes, they went to Oklahoma and they're there to this day. It's not their traditional homelands. They were forced to go there from somewhere else. And so they weren't as fortunate as the Navajo to come back and to to their sacred mountains and their homes and build upon that. And so just be aware of that. And there are a lot of tribes that were sent to Oklahoma, and I think it's worth checking into and reminding your students about that. We've talked about this plenty, uh, but a lot of Native students that they're going to be in your schools, they have grandparents or parents even, or uncles or cousins that were part of this system, this boarding school system. And these boarding schools were a network of government funded, but often religiously or church run institutions, ran them for the government. And just to be just completely transparent, the goal was for assimilation. It was to force assimilation on indigenous kids, and on the indigenous people, and they thought the best way to do it was through their children. And the way they did it was making it against the rules to speak your language. It was against the rules to practice your belief system from your tribe. And they're forced into Christianity, and they're changed their how they dressed. And you know and you know you can see a lot of these. I didn't realize that my middle picture there isn't complete, but it has this little boy's picture here, and they have another picture of him, right? But all you can see is his hand. I wasn't very good at editing that, but they took a lot of pictures of how these kids looked when they came to school. They cut their hair, they changed their clothes. Then they took an after picture. So they had before picture and an after picture. And the after pictures, they used more light. They powdered the skin um, of the students so they appeared a little lighter in color. And they used these photos to raise money to keep these schools open from by donors to show that they were changing, that they were becoming more American as they attended these schools. And it was a rough part of history. We had boarding schools throughout Utah, and you know and so if you're going to hear a lot of talk in the news and about the repatriation of human remains, or from students that died and were buried outside these boarding schools. Some had graves, some had marked graves. A lot of them did not. And so we try to figure out ways to get these remains back to their people, back to a homeland, or at least back to back into the earth, where they can so that they can continue their journey forward in the right way. So this is always a topic where there's a lot of ways that you can go off from this and and learn more about it, and help your students understand more about their parents, understand more about their grandparents, and the trauma that they'd been through, and probably help them better understand the decisions of their grandparents and parents made, as it relates to this trauma that they were a part of. So I identified, kind of 9 or 10 areas I think that would be good, uh, for for your Title VI programs to take part in. Um, Let me see. Stop sharing. Uh, and I am very appreciative of the work that you all do. Here with our Native students in Utah. I get with all of my employment, I get to teach, and I enjoy having Native students right out of high school come take my classes at UVU. Even if it's a general ed class like American Heritage, you know, I appreciate them taking it, and I love talking to them, and I love hearing about their experiences and how they got here to school, and the importance of their cultures to them and how it's gotten them this far. So I would hope that all of you are in a position to be able to help your students continue to move forward and continue to to gain knowledge and experience and education that not only better help themselves but are better help their people. You know, and you know, I this Christmas season, I hope, or holiday season, however you want to say it, I hope you're all taken care of. I hope you all have somewhere to go. I hope you have family to be with, and I hope you can share stories, you know, in our you know the our reverence moment. We, you know, we're sharing an example of how their family uh, shares stories and shares their culture, and strengthens their family in that way, and it's wonderful. You know, and when I was lucky to be able to attend a lot of ceremonial things growing up. I had good friends and a family that, you know, that wanted me to learn and to understand things. And so I felt lucky, and you know, when I moved away from home, I moved away from New Mexico. I'm Navajo. I grew up on the Navajo reservation north of Gallup. But I miss doing that. I miss, you know, going to a Yebiche with my mom, and watching those dancers and hearing those songs, and going inside the hogan and hearing those songs and singing with people. And in the morning before the sun comes up, you know, listening to those that bluebird song being sung in it, it always makes me feel better and stronger. And you know, this is the winter season for Southwest tribes, is for a lot of tribes, it's when they wear masks in their ceremonies, and when they and they they sing those songs as blessings to all of us here. And so I remember, I bought a Edna Tay cassette when I was young, and they had a song. He has a song on his album. I don't know if it's his greatest hits album. I don't know how that works, but one of them is called a Sacred Mass song. And you know, and I just wanted to sing it one time for you, just, you know, just to say, to wish you a good vacation or a holiday season right now, and as you start your new year, as Chuck said, you know, it's a chance for us to reevaluate things, to look at our programs, to look at our teaching, and look at our work and see what we can do better and move forward. And so I want to share this mask song with you, um, and just wish you a happy holiday. Hey, 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 oh, ho, hey, hey, ho. Hey, hey, ho, hey, 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 ho. Hey, 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 ho, ho, yo, hey, Yahweh, ha, hey, ha, hey, hey, ha, Yahweh, ha, hey, ha, hey, ha, hey, hey. So thank you for this time. I actually have to prepare for another meeting right now, and so I won't be able to answer a lot of any questions right now. I got to take off, but I really appreciate you allow me to be here and to share these things. So happy holidays, everyone. Have a good one.
Hey, thank you. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, that's great. Yeah, that was a good recap of things that we've had in the past, and open up new avenues with thinking and stuff. So that's great. I'll just leave it at that. And I believe our next speaker is here with us. Stephanie Benali from the Utah Foster Care Programs, and she's the Native American specialist for that program. So if she's on, are you on there, Stephanie?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then you can go ahead and take the floor from there.
Great. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to present to your group this morning. My name is Stephanie. As you mentioned, I am the Native American specialist. I work for Utah Foster Care. We are a nonprofit. We are contracted by the Division of Child and Family Services. I recruit for potential foster parents, Native foster parents, and I support our Native children in care, whether they're in foster care or in a licensed home or in a kinship home. I travel through the state of Utah providing those resources for kids in care. And I have a presentation. Let me see if I can pull it up. How would I share it? You know, how I would share my presentation. Okay, can everyone see my presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. Like I mentioned, I'm with Utah Foster Care, and my clans are registry people born for bitter water. My maternal grandparents are Mexican people clan, and my paternal grandparents is Red House. I reside in Salt Lake City. I am a mother of 8 children. I have 4 of my own and 4 that we are caring that are in care right now. We do foster Navajo children. And I just want to go over what we'll be talking about today, yeah, about Utah foster care, the Indian Child Welfare Act, and legislation. So as I mentioned, we are nonprofit. We were created in 1999 with the mission to develop a strategy to help find, educate, and support Utah foster families. And again, we're contracted through the Division of Child and Family Services. So we are nonprofit. We are not a state entity. Um, so the DCFS, the Division of Child and Family Services, is the placing agency. So we look for potential homes, and then the state makes along with the tribe, makes the decision on the placement of the child. Okay, I wanted to go over some basic qualifications to become a foster parent. A person needs to be, if they're a couple, they need to be legally married, or they can be single. We unfortunately in Utah we can't have couples cohabitating that are not legally married to be um, a foster parent. You have to be a U.S. citizen. A person over the age of 18 and older needs a background check in the home. And the person needs to be financially stable. There is no income requirement, just proof that you can take care of the kids that are coming into your home, and then and maintain the home that you have now with the kids in your home. And then you have to show proof that you're healthy enough to take care of kids. And that would be a document from your provider, um, just general information about your health care. And then you can have a license for foster care and daycare at the same time. And again, these are basic qualifications to become a foster parent. I know we have many families that I've met with in the past who are multi-generation households. So that is fine. It's just everyone over the age of 18 needs to be background checked. And then if you have a couple or a person that wants to be the foster parent, they would be the one who would carry that license. And then again, everyone else would just need the background check. This slide outlines our licensing steps. So the first step would be to contact us. It'd either be through our social media platforms or our website. They could call or come into the office. And we have offices throughout the state in Utah. My main office is in Murray, Utah. And so once we get that inquiry coming in, then we will schedule what's called an initial consultation. That's an informal meeting to answer any questions a person may have about becoming a foster parent. We have some questions for that person too. For example, how long have you lived in your home? Where are you from? How long have you been legally married? What are the ages of the children in your home if they have children? And so it's again informal to answer any questions that they may have and then go over the process with them. And then once that meeting is complete, then we would refer them to our pre-service training. That's both hybrid, so we do have an in-person and a hybrid option now. And again, that's the training schedule varies in different regions in the state. And that's free. We don't charge for our pre-service training. And they cover different topics of like trauma, culture, working with the biological parents. So there's different topics that are covered during that training. Then while the person is going through that training, they would be working on the paperwork. That's the application, getting the required documents. And then once that's completed, the training's completed, that would go to the licensing, who would then come to the home, do a walk through the home to make sure that the home is in compliance. For example, do they have fire extinguishers, first aid kits, smoke detectors? And there's a checklist that's in the application that the person can look at to make sure that their home is compliant. And then once the licensure visits the home, they'll write up a home study that will go to committee for approval. And once that's approved, then the family will be licensed for a year. And then to maintain that license, they would just need to complete in-service training. And then once that's completed, then placement would happen. Again, placement is made by DCFS and the tribe. And people have different placement preferences. Some people want one child or siblings, and the ages range. We have kids coming into care from 0 to 18. We see a lot of siblings coming into care right now too, and so it's not just single kids coming into care right now. And um, I've been doing this for a long time now, and we've identified some barriers over the years. One of them has been cohabitation. And again, in Utah, you need to be legally married to be a licensed foster parent. But we will talk about legislation that overcomes that one barrier right there down further in the presentation. And then background checks too. I've had people question, whether they'd be able to get a background check. And if we have that discussion, I can always run it by the licensing office to see if that would be a barrier. So for example, some people I've met with, they've had charges in their early 20s and now they're in their mid 30s and no charges and nothing has happened in between that time. So they want to know if that would be a barrier. And so we would check with licensing to see if that would be an issue. And then if not, then we would let them know if that would be one. And if there is a denial, they can always appeal that decision. We've also seen a distrust in state agencies just because of the historic trauma with our Native people and just in most recent, just how DCFS has been in certain parts of the states. I feel like since I've been here, there's been slowly changes, progress has been happening. So I feel like, if there are, concerns, you can reach out to me at Utah Foster Care. There's also the ICWA administrator, Jamie Harvey. So there are people that you can reach out to if you have questions about how cases are being handled. And then also the licensing process, we've seen it has been a barrier. So prior to COVID, we've seen barriers where people would have to travel long distance to get to the training. Um, and so now with having a hybrid option, we see that that's one barrier less. And then just recently within Utah foster care, we've been working to be more streamlined with our application. We have a new system now where it's easier to upload things and be able to track the families too and follow up with them. And so again, just over time, the process has been improving. In this study we had completed a few years ago, and again, this supports some of the barriers that I mentioned. So I'll just go over this really quickly. You know, majority of the respondents were female from the Navajo Nation. They did want to become foster parents, 77%. And as you can, this is a lot of, but of on the slide, but it's just basically saying what the barriers were. We have people that want to become foster parents. It was the training that was a barrier. They understand ICWA. Some people didn't understand ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act. And so again, it was just supporting what we've already seen in the years before. I wanted to provide some information about our partnerships. I mean, in the state of Utah, we have 8 tribes. We have great partnerships with all 8 tribes. We have partnerships with the Division of Child and Family Services. Again, we're contracted with them, and they're the placing agency. We also have a partnership with the Office of Licensing, the Office of American Indian and Alaska Native Health and Family Services, and the Court Improvement Program. In this work, it was important to identify the partnerships, because this job, recruiting and supporting, it just doesn't come from, one person or, a few people. It takes a village. It takes a lot for people to be able to provide those supportive services for the families and kids in care. We've identified most recently that we have 79 Native children in Utah that are in care, with only 16 foster homes. I find that it's important to identify the numbers and the regions. So DCFS is sectioned off in sections. So you have Northern, Salt Lake, Western, Southwestern, and Eastern. We're sectioned off the same way to reflect DCFS. So what we're finding is in Northern region, we have 13 Native children in care. In Salt Lake Valley, there's 27. In Western, there's 8. In Eastern, there's 28. And in Southwest, there's 3. And so that gives us an idea of like where the most kids are coming into care. And so we're wanting to target those areas to increase the more Native foster homes in that area. So as you can see, Salt Lake Valley and Eastern, which is San Juan County, and a lot of our kids in care, we are seeing that are from the Navajo tribe too. We've also, over the years, improved our marketing. We've revamped our website, and it's going under, again, some more work in the upcoming new year, so that will change a little bit. We've updated our brochures to include a QR code where people can bring up the website. We've also have quotes from different people on the card. So we went from a trifold to a front and back cardstock brochure. And then we've used the hashtag Native Homes for Native Children. And so again, we're always improving our marketing. We utilize the media a lot. We've been featured in Navajo Times a few times, Youth Bulletin, Indian Country Today. We do a lot of interviews with KRCL radio station. And then we've also utilized social media. So this is just a screenshot of how effective social media has been in a post that we've shared. We, received 184 likes, 94 shares, 10 saves, 104 actions taken, and you can see the impressions, new followers, who visits the website, and account reached. Again, we utilize social media. We did a media campaign where as we went across the state of Utah at different events, we've had various people hold our poster and share that on social media too. Just recently, we had a Native Voices podcast that was released, and this was a conversation with James Toledo with the Division of Indian Affairs, Craig Sandel with the Urban Indian Center, and myself talking about culture and about the Indian Child Welfare Act. That is still available, and that could be accessed through our website and our social media. Just recently, we had our third annual Indigenous Fashion Show, and this is we worked with Jessica Warda and her team. The first year we had it at the University of Utah. The second year we had it at the Leonardo, and then this year we had it at the Urban Indian Center, where we partnered with the Urban Indian Center this year along with Jessica too. And this is bringing out Native designers, models, who all donated their time to this event. And it was to bring awareness. This was held during November, which is National Adoption Month and Native American Heritage Month. And all ticket proceeds went to the Cedar Project. And we can talk about that a little bit more about the Cedar Project. We're also out in the community throughout the state. We've held different events in the past, information tables, a film screening. We've also organized a March for Solidarity for foster care awareness, and that was held in May. And so that was at the Salt Lake County office where the mayor I drafted the language for the proclamation. The mayor approved it. We had a Native foster parent, Vanessa Benali, read the proclamation. And then we, as a group, walked around in solidarity for Foster Care Awareness Month. In the past, I've drafted again language for the Navajo Proclamation. And one year we were able to have the Navajo Nation President Brew Nygren sign the proclamation. In the past, we were able to partner up with we had the social services for Navajo Nation reach out and inquired on how we could organize a family resource fair for them. And so we were able to work with James's office, the Division of Indian Affairs, and Ozzy, who's over the Native Health Office, DHS. And so we were able to put this 2-day event together, and we had various people set up an information table too. Every year we have our annual Moccasin 5K walk and run event for Foster Care Awareness Month. This is held in May every year. It's in White Mesa in San Juan County, and it's a family-free event. And people can walk or run, as I mentioned, and it's a time for families to come together. It's it's not competitive, and we always have a good turnout every year. And these are just a few pictures of the people that have attended in the past. We've had royalty attend, elected officials. We have had a live DJ there to energize, the group. And then the night before, we would have the Utah Film Center come down and set up a film screening for the community. This is free to everyone, and we provide dinner. And then one year they did a stop playmation activity for the kids too. Again, some pictures of what was taken during our moccasin run. And every year we'll give out cookies to the participants too. This is the group that helps organize. Again, we partner with James's office, the Mountain Ute tribe for this event every year. And then we have our volunteers who come out and help during the event. We also host Native foster care recruitment dinners. One year we partnered with the Navajo Nation. This is Elsie from the Navajo Nation Social Services. She provided information about how to become a foster parent through the tribe, and then I provided information how to become licensed through the state. We want to make sure people have that information because for some different reasons, people rather get licensed through the state and some rather get licensed through the tribe. Either one, there's a shortage through the state of Utah or across tribal communities and through the states. So we're giving people options for that, whether if they want to become licensed through the tribe or through the state. And we had this event in St. George, and we partnered with the college there, and they gave us some space there to be able to host that event. Again, we're always having information tables. If you have an event in your area and you want us to come and set up, we would be happy to do that and provide information. Everything that we hand out is free. And so it's, again, providing awareness for the need of more Native foster homes in Utah. And again, we've been at Halloween events, DB conference, powwows, health fairs. One year we did parade, Kern's hometown parade, again, just bringing awareness for the need of more foster homes. Some of the retention strategies that we have is events, trainings, and foster care support. We have foster care dinner every year that usually follows the ICWA conference. And this is where we highlight our foster parents, acknowledging them for their dedication and opening their homes to our children in care. And so we provide a gift to them. And again, as a community, we come together and support and celebrate our foster kids and the kids in care. And just most recently this year, we were able to go to the NICWA conference, which is a national conference, to be able to network with other people in the same field. And so it was great to see the Utah team there. You see there's Dina Ned from the University of Utah, Tilda and Annie from the courts at the conference too. We have an annual event. It's called the Bears Ears Foster Youth Trip. Our first year was in 2003. We partnered with let's see, Good Trips Adventures and Rise Outside, and also with the Rural Utah Project and Maris Benali's Women of Bears Ears. And so this was our first year. We had a good turnout. We were able to provide this trip free for kids that were junior high and middle school, and all they had to do is pack their bag and show up. And this was in Blanding or Bluff, and everything was provided: the tent, their sleeping bags, their food, transportation, and then we had local elders come and show us how to forage for plants. We learned about the local like the cultural history down in that area. And so again, we had people showing us and teaching us how to about the landscape. And then there were some kids who didn't know how to pitch a tent. And so we had, staff there guiding the kids how to pitch their tent for the first time. Then the following year, we had our second one. Again, this was open to middle and high school students, free again to all the kids. This year, 2024, we were able to provide transportation from Salt Lake to Bluff. And so that helped as a barrier, because the first year we saw that was a barrier for kids getting from Salt Lake Valley down to San Juan County. And so we were able to do that. And this year we will be doing it again, or next year, I should say. In 2024, we provided dinner. We had a local family provide the Navajo tacos. Again, we pitched tents. We put out a disclaimer to the families to let them know that we were going to be butchering a sheep. And so if they weren't comfortable with that, we would have an alternative project for them. And everyone that was there wanted to butcher a sheep. So everyone was on hands. The kids were able, as you can see in one picture, the kids' hands touching the meat, trying to like they were really on hand at the beginning to the end, and showing them how to cook, and prepare the food, and letting them know that nothing was wasted. So it went from butchering to preparing to cooking, and then we all were able to eat the food together as a group. We also showed how to um, do the wolf after we were done eating and everything. Again, this is free to our children in care. And we're going to have it again next year in the fall. Unfortunately, we didn't have it this year because of funding, but next year we will have the event in April, and that will be open not only to middle and high school, it will be open to elementary to high school students. The only caveat this time is that they have to have a foster parent or guardian attend with them. So if you have a sibling, they only need one guardian. But we do have to have an adult attend with them, and they have to stay, they have to camp out too. And so we have 10 slots that are available to anyone that's interested. Again, that's free. We will be providing transportation from Murray to Bluff. And so we'll provide more information. If you have kids in your area that may be interested, you can let them know once we have the flyer ready for that. Again, it's for children that are in foster care, and their guardian or foster parent would need to be able to attend with them. Every year we get a donation. We have a good partnership with the Native American Church. As you see, there's a picture of a teepee. They had a ceremony the night before, and I was invited the next morning to meet with the group, and they were just expressing, that they said prayers for the children that are in care, and for the families, and for reunification if when that happens, if that happens. And so I was able to meet with them that day. Again, every year they partner with us. They just recently delivered a donation for our kids in care, and that's going to be going out soon, as soon as I can get it out next week. And like I mentioned, Tracy So is the made the delivery last year, and then again just recently. Yes, I think it was yesterday she dropped by. Here's just a list of some other supportive services. We've worked with Cookies with a Cause. Again, this is not an activity that's traditional, but the person will come out and give a cookie demonstration to the kids. It's just an activity for all Native children in care to come together to do something fun, and then, have something yummy when they're done with the activity. We've also worked with May Fly Project. It's an opportunity where kids will learn how to fly fish. And again, like I mentioned, we have foster care dinner. As a licensed foster parent, we have a cluster group. And so it's a closed Facebook group. It's a safe a platform where people have questions. They can ask those questions, and then we also share resources on that page too. Utah Foster Care has a Wishing Well Fund, and that provides resources for kids that are in foster care that up to 500 a year. So if you have an example, a child that needs admissions to the zoo, the aquarium, and that can add up quickly, you can make a request for those admissions to be covered. Or let's say you want them to take a karate class, you can also request funding for that too. Again, that Wishing Well Fund is only for Native children, or it's only for children in foster care. We also provide cultural classes too. If there's a particular class, so in the past, we've had like a corn grinding demonstration. But if we have people that are interested in certain things that they want to learn about, we can try to get those cultural classes organized for them too. We also have donations coming in from the community all the time. If we have a particular child that needs something, I will reach out to the community to see if we can get that item met for that child. And it's amazing when that happens. We had one child who wanted a bike, and I put out the call. This woman from Washington contacted me and said, I want to donate the bike. And so it it was ordered through Walmart. I was able to pick it up here locally and deliver it to the child. And he was just surprised. He's just like, wow, someone who doesn't know me really cared to give me a bike. And he was happy. He was really grateful and excited to be able to be gifted that bike. We also have an annual diaper and hygiene drive, kind of talk, hygiene drive. And this is annually, and we collect for the whole month in July. And once those items are collected, I distribute those to all kids in care, whether they're in state or tribal foster care. And then we also have the Cedar Project. This was launched in 2020 to provide cultural resources that weren't being provided prior. So this is items like maybe if a baby needs a cradle board, a child needs a regalia or a traditional outfit. Maybe they want coloring books that are, native coloring books, or books by Native authors. And so whatever the child may need, that's what we try to get for them. I had a family of siblings who were from the Hopi tribe who wanted more information about like the language and more reading materials. So I was able to contact someone from the Hopi tribe and get those resources and then provide it to the sibling group. So again, this is resources that are available free for all kids in care. If you have some kids that are in your region that you are aware of that need items such as this, please reach out and we can work on getting those items for the kids. And sometimes, it's not always the cultural part too that they may need. It's like I mentioned before, the boy with the bike. If it's stuff like that, we can surely try to work on getting something for them. But again, if we want to try to support the kids in their while they're in foster care. I wanted to briefly talk about the Indian Child Welfare Act. Congress determined that retaining an Indian child in his or her culture or placing the Indian child is culturally appropriate placement best serve the needs of that Indian child. So before ICWA, before reunification, but first I wanted to begin with anytime a child comes into foster care, the goal is reunification, whether that's being placed with the birth parents or with the family. And that happens 65% of the time where reunification does happen. So when a person also become a foster parent, it's not always going to be the result of adoption. We let everyone know that reunification is the goal. And when a Native child comes into foster care, then ICWA is in place, and that's a federal law as we're going to go over right now. And then we also let the foster parents know about the Indian Child Welfare Act, not only in that initial consultation, but also through the training and just throughout the time they're licensed, because sometimes, you get all that information at the beginning and then you forget. So we want to make sure that all parents, Native or non-Native, are aware that there is a federal law protecting our Native children in care. And then before the Indian Child Welfare Act, as you can read, cultural biases regarding childbearing practices were used to justify removal. 25 to 35% of Indian children were removed, and 85 were placed in non-Native homes. Parents were either coerced into volunteer agreements or to relinquish their rights. Attorneys were not provided for parents or children, and the burden was on the Indian family to prove they could provide for their children. So again, this is all before the Indian Child Welfare Act. And what does ICWA do? So this was designed to remedy the cultural mistakes that have resulted in Native children being placed in out of home care. And so now it's requiring a higher proof of a burden for removal. It requires the caseworker to look beyond the surface, involving extended family and tribes in cases, and the court understanding the Native values and tribal sovereignty. And so, as I mentioned, when a child comes into care, the placement will be has to be approved by DCFS and the tribe, and the tribe will be on that a case will be there'll be a worker from the tribe assigned to that case while the child's in care. So the child that's in care will have two caseworkers, one from the state and one from the tribe. ICWA applies to a child that is identified as Native, which is unmarried person under 18 who is either a member of a federally recognized tribe or eligible for a membership of a federally recognized tribe, and is a biological child of a member of a federally recognized tribe. So sometimes it will take a minute to confirm that this child is eligible or enrolled, just because of the tribe's process in that enrollment. However, the state will continue to keep treating that case as an ICWA case until down the road it's determined that the child is not eligible or not. In most cases, what I've seen in Utah, if a child is if it's being treated as an ICWA case and the child is not eligible for enrollment, they'll still continue as an ICWA case. So I've seen that happen a lot, and which is good because that gives that extra layer of protection for the child. But I've seen that in some cases in Utah. ICWA does not apply to divorce proceedings or custody disputes between two parents and juvenile delinquent proceedings. This is a question that has come up a lot, and so again, it's when a child comes into foster care, and then if a child is in tribal foster care, ICWA wouldn't apply because the case is being held in tribal court. When does ICWA apply? Child custody proceedings involving children who fit the definition of Indian child would apply to foster placement, the termination of parental rights, pre-adoptive placement, and adoptive placement. Again, the tribe has a voice in placement and foster care and adoption. So there are several states right now that have state ICWA laws. In 2023, Utah, there was a legislation for HB 40, the Indian Child and Family Amendment. And this was, again, to see if Utah could have a state ICWA law. This went to committee, and unfortunately, it did not pass in 2023. And then I'll go more into about it. So that's what happened. In 2023, Utah attempted to advocate for our own state, because right now there's a federal one, but again, there's other states that have their own state ICWA laws, and we were hoping to become one of those states, but again, it did not pass in 2023. I wanted to talk about let's see on time, some legislation. As I mentioned before, in Utah, you have to be licensed, or you have to be legally married to be a licensed foster parent. There was legislation that was passed on kinship. So a couple that is cohabitating, not legally married, can be a kinship placement for a child or children. So for example, if you have a child that's coming into care and you have a couple that's, cohabitating, they can be considered a kinship placement for that child. They just wouldn't qualify for foster care and reimbursement. They would have to apply for the specified relative grant, and they would be assigned a kinship worker, and that person would be able to go over all that paperwork with them on how to become a kinship provider and receive that grant through workforce services. I find that even though the reimbursement is not a lot and there's maybe not a lot of support for this route, it's an alternative option if a person wants to still take in kids. And so this would be utilized, for example, if a cohabitating couple is Navajo and there is a Navajo child that comes into care, and the Navajo child's clans are the same as the couple, then they could be a possible kinship placement. I wanted to share some information about the Navajo legislation. May is the Net Foster Care Awareness Month. It was sponsored by former Navajo delegate Nathaniel Brown. I was the agent on the case. It was reviewed by Navajo DOJ. It was reviewed by the Navajo Health, Education, and Human Service Committee and NAPA, and went to council for it was passed. So it was there was no one that opposed it. Another legislation for Utah is the Native American Child Welfare Amendment in 2017. This gives full faith and credit to Indian tribe certification or license of tribal foster homes for an Indian child and siblings of that Indian child, both on and off the Indian country. So again, this helps too, especially with the areas where down like in San Juan County is where it helps a lot, this legislation. And as I mentioned, in 2003, Representative Watkins attempted to pass legislation on HB 40. It did not pass. And then the following year, it did not pass again. We attempted again. The Utah Indian tribes took lead this current time, this recent time, and it did not pass again. Tammy Brochot Slayton did a really great job in pushing it, advocating, and meeting with different communities. And we had a rally at the Capitol, but unfortunately, it didn't even go that far like the first one did. And so we're hoping that not this year, the 2007 will be the year that we will finally get a state equal law. And I shared a lot of information, and I probably went through it really quickly. I just wanted to be mindful of the time. Here's my contact information. There's two numbers I can be reached at. They can be both text or call. There's my email address. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Does anyone have any questions right now?
Hey, Stephanie, can you put up their contact information again?
Yeah, let me see if I can. Good. Okay,
Oh,
great. Yeah, we do, like if you, in your area, if you want us to come out and do a film screening, we have two films, Dawnland and Blood Memory, which talks about the Indian Child Welfare Act. In the past, we did a film screening for Finding Nemo in Navajo, and that was a great activity. We had we invited all Native children in care. That movie's spoken in Navajo. We served Navajo tacos, and majority of our kids that came were Navajo. And even though they didn't really understand the what was going on, they could pick up pieces of it, and it was just a time to be able to come together and enjoy a meal and watch a cartoon. And so we could do something like that too in your area if that's an interest. But If you want us to come talk to your parents, we can do that too. We're always looking to find more Native foster families. I see that, um, the difference. Our kids thrive when they're in Native homes. Like I mentioned, I'm a foster parent. I've seen my kids thrive while they're in my home and learning too. They're learning the things, the Navajo culture and the language. I see there was a question.
Yeah, Monica has a question.
Hi, thank you for sharing. I'm Monica Gill. I'm from Ogden School District. My question, I guess, is like I worry that we're missing some of those foster students within the Ogden area, and just wondering like how we can work together and partner to make sure we're communicating. Like if, say, Ogden School District, a student is placed in Ogden within Ogden School District, and you know that they're coming to Ogden School District, like how can we make sure that family connects with our Title VI community liaison to make sure we don't miss them and we bring them into our program?
What we could do is share your contact information with those families. And so that's what I've been able to do in the past, if I'm aware of. Yeah, because sometimes, like the list that I received just recently, I knew right from like looking at the list, there was 3 Native children not on that list. And so I've let DCF know that there's 3 kids missing from this list. And that's unfortunate that happens. And so we don't want that. And we want to be able to make sure those resources are provided. If I can get your contact information, I can provide that to the families up in that region too. So as I mentioned, there's a Native American cluster group, but also just in general, there's cluster groups for different regions in Utah. I can give a copy of your contact information to the Northern Foster Group, and then so if they are placed with a Native child, they'll be able to see that too.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Any other question? Okay, like as I mentioned, if you have any kids that you know that are in care that need services, support, please reach out to me. We have a lot of resources. We get donations all the time. I don't like sitting on our donations, so I want to make sure that those are getting out to the kids in care. Like for example, we have some leftover extra holiday bags too. So if you have kids in care, please reach out to me, and I can get those delivered by Monday if that's needed. But again, we're here to support our children in care. We're happy to attend any events you may have, to set up a table, to give a presentation. I have a longer presentation on the Indian Child Welfare Act too that I can share too, if that's needed.
Outstanding. Hey, thank you, Stephanie. That was a lot of good information. A lot of this information, I didn't catch it the first time, but now it kind of really makes sense. So thank you for that. And I'm pretty sure that some of the Title VI folks, they're running across some, I guess, some issues with this maybe, or they just ask questions, so they can reach out to you and you can have that conversation. So again, just thank you for your time with us, um, um, and be safe and I guess I'm going to say happy holidays and
Yeah,
season and so on and so forth. Hey,
thank
thanks,
you.
Stephanie.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you for the opportunity to present and provide information. We have a lot of services that we can provide to our kids in care. And again, I'll provide that information about the youth trip coming up next year in May, and hopefully we'll be able to fill all 10 slots. We've had a really good turnout for that in the past. I had one kid who didn't want to go to the camp, and then at the end of the camp, he's like, I had a great time. So because he got to learn, he didn't want it. And we had kids wake up like at 3 o'clock in the morning to view the Milky Way too, and they were, saying that was a great experience. And then the following year, they wanted to be able to witness that again too. And so there's different takeaways from each child, when they come to those events, and it's it's nice to be able to provide that cultural support for them, and it's free, and we want to make sure that we can get those 10 slots filled.
Mm, okay.
Okay,
Well,
thank
thanks
you.
again. Thanks
Thanks.
again. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, let's move on. For updates, do you guys have any updates for your site? And if not, we'll ask Urban Indian Center if they're here to give an update on their activities at the Urban Indian Center.
Hi, Dr. Foster, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, sorry. Um, yeah, we have a few updates, and I think like with the new year, we have a lot happening, especially with the new year. We've had a lot of accomplishments in our 2025, but also with collaborations within our community here in the valley. One thing is that we are currently working with families who are in need. We had a Christmas assistance program that was really based on financial needs. And so we served 30, I believe, 90 families. And so we were able to ensure most of those kids received a gift, but also we're trying to ensure that we do have a program that's available annually. I may be off on my numbers, but I believe it was um, quite a gift that we were able to provide, especially to kids who are registered within the Urban Indian Center. And so that's something that we really value with your connection, with the connections we have with you all. Um, but another thing too is we'll have uh, lacrosse. They'll be having a new program that will be happening the first part of January, but also our health promotion, disease prevention coordinator, she'll be having a new program also. We'll be starting our new culture classes, which is January 13th, which continue until April. So those Tuesday night culture classes are designed to ensure kids are getting prevention programs, but also powwow and dance lessons provided by community members around the valley. Um, we're looking to have a conference that could possibly designed to have commercial tobacco prevention for youth, which would be high school conference with Cassie John and with the Utah Health and Human Services program. But that's something that we're in the discussion. So I'm hoping to get that conversation going early January. So um, I'll keep you posted on that. All in all, I think everything has been pretty productive for the 2025 year. Looking forward to the new year, but also happy holidays to everyone.
Hey, thanks, Penelope. That's good information everybody needs to know. And is there any other updates from the Title VI coordinators? There's not. We'll move on and to adjourn. And I just want to make one, quick announcement. This is reference to, um, oh, Brenda, do you have something?
Yes, just a really quick one.
Okay.
So there is a new Kishmish. Well, I shouldn't say. There's like a new puppet series on FX from Pete Sands, and one of the episodes is on Navajo Keshmish, and so it's actually really. I looked at the clip, and it was really great. So he is trying to go out into various communities to get Title VI programs to view that Christmas episode that says Yad Keshmish, and it's actually really good. I don't know if you want me to show a quick clip if we have time. Um, it might be fun, but if not, I can send out the clip to everybody. I think he does have it on his page too, so that you can actually get access to the FX channel, um, the YouTube channel to view it. So, but I'll go ahead and send the
Yeah,
link
let's
out to
do. Yeah.
everybody. Okay, that's my only announcement.
All right. Thanks, Brenda. Any other?
Good morning, Harold. Good morning,
Good morning.
everyone. I'm Tashina Barber. I'm a program manager in the Center for Native Excellence and Tribal Engagement at the University of Utah. I am representing my director here, Samantha Eldridge. She is out on vacation, but I wanted to share a few announcements. In January, our center is celebrating our 30th anniversary of the dedication of our center. It's really been led by the community. We'll be partnering with the Urban Indian Center. We'll have one event here at our center on January 30th to have an open house. The following day, on January 31st, at the Urban Indian Center, we will be hosting a community bingo along with a popular comedian who will be our MC and naming out the bingo numbers and so forth. So we're really excited about that. But I want to encourage everyone here. It's open to all our community, K through 12. We really want to encourage that sense of belonging with our students early. So we have a couple of other events led by our Intertribal Student Association. One in particular is a beading workshop on January 12th, I believe. And that's also open to anyone who is available. So we just wanted to extend our gratitude to everyone for your support this year, bringing your young students to our center, allowing us to share information with the work that we do. And we hope to continue that relationship with everyone. So thank you again from the Center for Native Excellence and Tribal Engagement, and happy holidays.
Hey, thank you, Tashina. Anybody else?
Dr. Foster, I know I'm beating a dead horse, but what about the funding? Have we heard anything on the funding yet?
You know, I have, well, the funding, I checked on that last week and they haven't gotten back to me. Matter of fact, I think they added a few more dollars to that funding piece. I think that's I think maybe that's the holdup. I'm not so sure. See, what they
Let's
did
hope
was
it's a
that,
lot more dollars.
well, that's what I'm hoping for. The numbers really it fluctuates with me because there's always developments. And when there's developments, I submitted the funding, the numbers that they gave me. I submitted that. And within about a week or a week and a half later, they says that, well, the funding changed because we found there's a few more dollars out there that we think your program can use. So they gave me that figure, and I completed that application and submitted that again. And now this is the third time that they added a few more dollars to that. So I'm not I'm just waiting for them to make sure that it's it's complete. I think that's what they're waiting for also. So um, this, the last information that I got was last week. Actually, it was last Thursday. So it's right now it's just the wait time for everybody. I really appreciate you guys' patience, and my patience is wearing really, really thin. So it's I've been talking to my supervisor as well as the supervisor of this of student services, and they're doing the best job in terms of moving that information forward. And like I indicated before, there's another level of approval, and that's where the whole I think that's where the whole thing is. The whole process is being held up. It's not a holdup. It's just the approval process, because it's not only our program, it's all the programs in here at USBE. They have basically the same channels that we all go through. So that's the update. And again, I appreciate your patience, and it's hopefully the coming year would be a lot better in terms of getting the information out and getting it from where it's at right now out to all the sites. So that's the only. And then the other piece is that this is now switching gears. If Karma Grayman, if you remember her, she was the Title VI coordinator at the Washington School District. She passed away a couple of days ago. So her funeral is next week on Tuesday. So those people that knew her, who that person was, and she did a good job in terms of keeping the Title VI programs, running, and now they have a new leadership and another person coming in, which is Mike and Charlene. They're carrying on some of the traditions that she had in place, and they're adding more to that. So, we appreciate what she's done, and, just some sad news on that piece there. So now our next meeting is January the 16th. And my last comment is, I wish you guys all a good season. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And most of our area here at USBE, in our area, most of us are going to be taking a little over a week, maybe 2 weeks off. But I'll always have my computer available, as well as my phone. If you guys want to get in contact with me, just feel free to do that. Other than that, I appreciate you guys, what you guys do for your school district and what you guys do for your students and families. I think that you guys have a really great, outstanding program, and the impact is immediate, because a lot of these programs, they do rely on you, and they rely on your expertise and helping the students move from one area to another. That's one piece, and the other one is that I believe that the parents are also really grateful for what you guys do for their students. And talking to some of the tribal members, they're pretty much happy of what's transpiring in your school districts. So I'd like to thank you for that. And other than that, I got no other news. And I guess the time for me to sign off now is, and then we'll meet again January the 16th. And everybody be safe.
Dr. Foster, before you
Yes.
leave, can you
Okay.
click on that little video and just share that with the coordinators so they can see um, the Yad Ekeshmish show that I was talking about?
Yeah. Where do you have it somewhere?
I put it in the chat.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Okay, let's see here. Okay, I get Eddie's comments. Well, it didn't appear on the chat. Can
Hmm.
you, hey, let's see here. Oh, here we go. Okay, here we go.
I think we lost Dr. Foster.
Oh no. Okay, well, anyways, I left the link there so you guys can just pull it up. I was gonna just have him show it, but it's really cute.
He's back, but we can't hear him. You're muted, Dr. Foster. You're muted.
Okay, anyways, I left the link there, but Merry Christmas.
Hey, thank you. Hey, Becky, can you pull that off the chat and send it to our group here?
Okay, will do.
Okay. So other than that, hey, thank you guys for being here and be safe throughout the holidays.
I'll try not to bother you, Dr. Foster. By turning my phone off.
No, when your name appears, I pick it up. I pick it right up.
She's like, what's happening in Davis?
Yeah, it stands in the corner. It's
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Oh,
yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see.